Today's topic is for military men and women. If you're in the military, you're probably going to end up in the combat zone, and we're here in the studio with Alex, and we're going to talk about that. So I'm assuming you've experienced that in the Air Force as a fighter pilot.
You bet, yeah. My main military experience is in Iraq and Syria. Not a lot of combat deployments, just to that AOR, but that's the one time I was over there.
Mm-hmm. And in the other branches of the military, it probably happens maybe even more for the Army. They're gonna need this video even more so, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm in the Air Force. I'm a fighter pilot, and my sense of combat is obviously above the battlefield, but I don't get the up close and personal. But have a lot of friends who are in that regime and a lot of guys that I've worked with.
Mm-hmm. So talk us through some of these points. The first point is about courage.
Yeah, so I think that it's important to acknowledge the first time you go into combat, you're going to be scared. Whether that's because your life is actually at risk and you're in a difficult situation, or just the fear of not screwing up. For me, it was kind of a mix of the two of those, and my first combat sortie was definitely an eye-opening experience where you have got to kind of accept that fear is going to be a big part of your mantra in that mission. And then sort of acknowledging it and getting past it, I think, is an important thing. The guys that have a ton of bravado and act like it's not actually going to be a scary thing, I think they actually tend to do worse, just overall level of performance, but their own sort of psyche.
Yeah, and I like how you define courage. Courage is the ability to overcome fear, not to act like it's not there for you, right?
Right. I think that, especially as a leader in that situation, you got to understand that all of your people are probably a little bit scared about it. Accept that risk. That's a natural thing to have happen. Overcome it by using your training and obviously developing a solid game plan, but really acknowledging the fact that it's there in you, and it's there in your people that you're leading and following with.
Your second point's about purpose. You say find a purpose that makes the risk worth taking. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think it's very easy for people to get disillusioned in wartime. It's usually a very big endeavor, and you're a smaller part of it. So wherever you fall on the food chain, if you're kind of lower down, like times I have been, it's difficult to put into purpose the things that you're doing on a daily basis, and what you're doing can seem frivolous, or at times you're even frustrated by the progress of the war. And so you've got to be able to find purpose for what it is that you are making happen. Sometimes you have to shift what that purpose ends up being. And so maybe it might not be the objectives of the war that day, but it's keeping the guys around you alive, or keeping, in my case, Americans who are on the ground alive, and preventing anything from happening to them.
That's good. Your third point, I like this. This is a pretty powerful point. Don't dehumanize what you've been asked to do.
Yeah, war is a terrible thing. It's something you never want to have to do. If I could train the rest of my life for war, I think I'd be a happy guy. Unfortunately, sometimes you're going to get called to do it. And the tendency is to dehumanize the enemy. It's a terrible thing when you have to take a life. It was a difficult experience for me to have to get over. But once you kind of move past it, you're doing it for a reason. You've been asked to do that task. But don't dehumanize the enemy. Accept the fact that what you're doing is dangerous, but you've got to find that purpose in it, and then go, all right, I'm not going to take it to the next level where I lose my sense of self by almost cheering for the death of the enemy.
This last one's about sort of emotionally for yourself, emotionally dealing with it. You say don't lose touch with your loved ones, both inside and outside the war zone.
Yeah, it's very easy to, when the things you're doing over there, and even from my perspective, executing over the top of the battlefield, still at times things can get to you a little bit. And so the natural reaction is to kind of turn in on yourself or the other guys with you in your unit, because it's so difficult for family members or spouses, loved ones to understand what it is that you're doing or have any sense of what's going on, that it's very easy to just turn on yourself and lose that touch. They are the number one thing that's kind of anchoring you, I think, keeping you very humanized, a person. They're what drives you. And so if you lose touch with them, especially in this day and age of Skype and WhatsApp and all that kind of stuff, you should be making a concerted effort. Every so often there's going to be a classified mission, or you're not going to be able to talk, but there's really no excuse not to keep those relationships going.
Yeah, that's good. Well, again, if you're watching this with a mentor or a group, I encourage you to check out those questions below and talk about it. Alex, I want to thank you for serving, and all of you who are watching this video and going through these videos, thank you for serving in our country, especially putting yourself in harm's way. So be sure to talk about this one before you get into the combat zone next time.